Have you ever heard of a royal princess whose life was turned upside down by betrayal and heartbreak? Tamar, King David's only daughter mentioned in the Bible, had a story so tragic and shocking that it still echoes through history today. What happened to her wasn't just unfair, it changed an entire kingdom. In this video, we'll uncover the full story of Tamar, her betrayal by someone she trusted, and the powerful lessons we can learn from her pain and resilience. Stick around, this is a story you don't want to miss. Tamar's story, recorded in 2 Samuel 13, is one of love, betrayal, and injustice. It's a story that highlights the consequences of sin and silence in the face of wrongdoing. But it's also a story that shows us the importance of standing for justice. In this video, we'll take you step by step through Tamar's life, the betrayal she faced, and how her story changed David's family forever. By the end of this video, you'll not only know Tamar's story, but also the deeper lessons it teaches us about life and faith. Tamar was born into royalty, the daughter of King David and Maacah. As a princess, she lived a life of luxury, fine clothes, delicious food, and grand celebrations. But palace life wasn't as perfect as it seemed. King David had many wives, and his children from different mothers didn't always get along. Tamar was especially close to her full brother, Absalom, who cared deeply for her. But her half-brother, Amnon, the eldest son and heir to the throne, began to see Tamar in a way that no brother should. Amnon's feelings for Tamar weren't pure. They were selfish and wrong. Despite her royal status and beauty, Tamar had no idea that her life was about to change in the most heartbreaking way. Her kindness and innocence would soon be taken advantage of in a way no one expected. Amnon's obsession with Tamar grew stronger each day. He thought about her constantly and even made himself sick with desire. But this wasn't love. It was lust, a selfish craving that clouded his judgment. Instead of seeking help or turning to God, Amnon confided in Jonadab, his cousin and advisor. Jonadab wasn't a good influence. Instead of warning Amnon about his sinful thoughts, he encouraged them. He came up with a plan that would lead to Tamar's betrayal. Amnon pretended to be sick and asked his father, King David, to send Tamar to care for him. Tamar, being kind-hearted, didn't suspect anything. She agreed to help her brother, not knowing that she was walking into a trap. When Tamar entered Amnon's room, she brought food to help him recover. But Amnon's intentions were far from innocent. Once they were alone, he revealed his true feelings. Tamar, shocked and horrified, begged him to stop. She reminded him of God's laws and the disgrace such an act would bring. But Amnon didn't listen. In one of the most heartbreaking moments in the Bible, he overpowered Tamar and violated her. This wasn't just a betrayal of trust. It was a crime that shattered Tamar's life. As if the betrayal wasn't enough, Amnon's feelings for Tamar turned to hatred immediately after. He ordered her to leave, treating her as if she were worthless. Tamar pleaded with him, saying, "Sending me away is worse than what you've already done." But Amnon didn't care. He called his servant to throw her out and locked the door behind her. Tamar was left devastated. She tore her robe, a symbol of her purity, and placed ashes on her head, crying out in grief. Her pain wasn't just physical, it was emotional, a wound that would never fully heal. Tamar sought refuge with her brother Absalom, who took her into his home. Absalom comforted Tamar, but inside he was filled with rage. He couldn't believe what Amnon had done, and he couldn't forgive his father David for doing nothing about it. David was furious when he heard what happened, but he failed to act. His silence allowed the injustice to fester, creating a rift in the family. Meanwhile, Absalom began plotting his revenge. He wouldn't let Amnon get away with hurting his sister. 2 years later, Absalom invited all of David's sons to a feast. It seemed like a gesture of reconciliation, but it was all part of his plan. During the feast, Absalom ordered his servants to kill Amnon. His revenge was swift and brutal, but it came at a cost. After Amnon's death, Absalom fled, fearing his father's wrath. David mourned for both of his sons, one dead and the other in exile. The family was broken, and the consequences of David's inaction were clear. 2 years later, Absalom invited all of David's sons to a feast. It seemed like a gesture of reconciliation, but it was all part of his plan. During the feast, Absalom ordered his servants to kill Amnon. His revenge was swift and brutal, but it came at a cost. After Amnon's death, Absalom fled, fearing his father's wrath. David mourned for both of his sons, one dead and the other in exile. The family was broken, and the consequences of David's inaction were clear. Tamar's life was forever changed, but her story didn't end there. She became a symbol of injustice and a reminder of the importance of standing up for what's right. Her courage in speaking out and her resilience in the face of betrayal inspire us even today. Tamar's story also highlights the need for justice and accountability. If David had acted, could this tragedy have been avoided? It's a question that challenges us to reflect on our own actions and responsibilities. Tamar's story teaches us many lessons. It shows us the dangers of unchecked sin, the importance of protecting the vulnerable, and the consequences of silence in the face of wrongdoing. It's a reminder that we must stand up for justice, even when it's difficult. Her story also reminds us of God's mercy and grace. Even in the darkest moments, there is hope for healing and redemption. Tamar's pain wasn't the end of her story, and it doesn't have to be the end of ours. Tamar's story is one of heartbreak, but it's also a story of strength and resilience. It challenges us to confront injustice, stand for what's right, and protect those who are vulnerable. What are your thoughts on Tamar's story? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and may Tamar's story inspire you to make a difference in the world.